Hello and welcome back to NoBS. Today we return to talking about the Democratic presidential candidate Joe Biden. Recently, the Democratic National Convention has been going on this week, and it's been a bit of a mess to say the least. Specifically, some of the endorsements coming from those speeches have been rather interesting. That's why we're going to talk about one today. Today we're going to talk about how a certain singer, a very young one and a very interesting one, has decided to not only perform at these conventions, but also she's coming out in support of Joe Biden in a very interesting, very cringy styled video. We're going to talk about that video and get to it soon. But first, let's just say who this person is. It's Billie Eilish. She's a very young teenage singer who's come up in the last few years, and she's gotten into this thing pretty hardcore. In fact, she's shown signs of being woke and a feminist and stuff like that before. She's had a few bad interview moments over the last year or so as she's come up into prominence, and it's showed that she's a classic feminist who kind of hates when people judge her by her appearance, but she also judges men and other people by their appearances. And in addition, the other thing that really irks me about this nomination and this promotion and her endorsing Biden is it goes completely against her character. I mean, not only is she this young teenager who just turned 18, she's been 18 for less than a year, probably hasn't even voted once before ever. So she really knows nothing about politics. She has no experience in polling and voting and getting involved actually. So right out the gate, she doesn't know what she's talking about here. I mean, I'm sure she's made a few nice songs and a lot of people like them, but in the political realm, she has no experience, not only for her being young, but just for her being new and not really knowing what she's talking about. And the other part that really messes up her style is this is a big sellout move for someone like her. I mean, I know it's okay in Hollywood and in the music biz to support the Democrats and their candidates. Like that's actually encouraged, and you'll get frowned upon if you don't in these kinds of liberal circles. But at the same time, it is a little weird when it comes from someone like this. Like Billie Eilish is kind of this singer that does these offbeat kind of like anti-pop styled songs. I don't know if you guys have heard her, but she's done a song called Bad Guy, and she also is singing the new theme song for the new James Bond movie. Like, she's really popular right now, and she has a good producer. Like, some of her tracks are pretty interesting. I would say they're kind of hard to listen to. They're kind of like this odd style of music where they're not catchy. They're not like easy and fun to hear. They're not like something you'd remember the lyrics for. They're kind of like depressing to me. Like, they're kind of like slow and odd. And that's why I say her coming out with Biden in spite of that is kind of like a sellout move, because she was trying to be obviously anti-establishment. She was trying to be like anti-popular and mainstream, but to endorse this kind of Democrat Biden goes totally against that. I mean, the Democrats are the most mainstream thing ever. I mean, I know that Trump is president and he's a Republican, but he really won in spite of all these other people running the mainstream. I mean, Trump won despite the news going against him, despite all these companies, corporations, big tech, the Democratic establishment, Hollywood, DC, like everything is going up against conservatives right now. So for Billie Eilish to join the Democratic movement is really just her selling out and joining the establishment. I mean, this is the big group that runs everything. They're in control of social media. They're in control of Hollywood, DC. I mean, everything I've said before already. So yeah, this is a big sellout move for her. And lastly, before we get to the actual video, just check out a picture of it. It says, this is a tweet from Joe Biden. It says, "I'll just say what Billie Eilish said, vote like your life depends on it, Dem convention." And right from this picture, I think you can kind of tell she's got this kind of look, like she's kind of got this stoner look, like she's kind of like high all the time and acting really like drugged out. I don't know if that's true. I don't know if that's just her personality or some kind of fake kind of thing she's putting on, but it really, again, just goes weird with this whole situation, because that reminds me of Joe Biden. Like, I'm not sure Joe Biden would want to be associated with some kind of like drugged out teenager like this, but that is what's happening. Joe Biden is desperate, and Billie Eilish is trying to become up and be the star and like get in with all these Hollywood crowds. Like, she's really young. She doesn't know what she's doing very much. So this probably seems like a good move to her, but can you really trust someone who dyed their hair like this? I mean, look at this hair dye. Look at this job. Look at this look. I mean, I'm not trying to get all about the appearances, but when you see someone with like messed up hair or like broken teeth, you kind of just question it, and you're just like, what is wrong with this person? Like, did they do drugs or something? Like, did they get into a lot of fights or lose a bet? I mean, you just got to question it, and that's what's happening today. So with all that said, let's go ahead and check out the video and see what Billie has to say for herself.
You don't need me to tell you things are a mess. Donald Trump is destroying our country and everything we care about.
Actually, I do need you to tell me what's a mess and what is Donald Trump destroying, because I'm not seeing it. I'm not seeing this country getting destroyed by Trump. He's trying to help. He's trying to protect us. He's the one that banned travel to try to save us from this epidemic. He's the one trying to build a wall to secure our borders, to stop these criminals and legals from coming in. I mean, there's no destruction there. There's no bad things that Trump's doing. If anything, he's destroying the hearts of these evil liberals and making them cry and cringe and but that's not really a crime. That's not hurting our country. That's actually going to make us better, because we don't want people like that around. But the greater point is, who is actually destroying our country, right? I mean, who is actually out there destroying stuff, breaking things, trying to change our laws, trying to remove whatever landmarks and statues and history? I mean, obviously you could tell that's the Democrats. That's just so apparent. I don't know how she can even phrase this speech like this. It's very likely she didn't write this speech, by the way. It's very likely she was handed a script, and even possibly it looks like she's being held hostage here. It looks like someone's aiming a weapon at her head saying, hey, say these words or you're going to die or we're going to kill your parents. Like, it looks really cringe. And then, who's really destroying the country? Like I said, she says it's Trump. I don't see it. I don't see Trump breaking anything down. I don't see Trump supporters tearing down statues and wrecking buildings and rioting in Portland. Like, that's all the Democrats. The Biden supporters are the ones rioting in the streets. They're the ones destroying their cities in Minneapolis, in Chicago, in New York, in every other city and major city run by Democrats. Like, the liberals are destroying America. So for them to flip it around and say, oh, Trump is, and then give no backup for it, like no evidence, like I just listed out all these examples. We could go over the facts all day about Democrats tearing down this statue, Democrats breaking this building, Democrats, hounding this person, beating up this old white lady, like attacking this person for wearing a Trump hat, like getting this person fired, like all this stuff. It all goes back to the left, not Trump.
We need leaders who will solve problems like climate change and COVID, not deny them. Leaders who will fight against systemic racism and inequality.
Okay, we got climate change, COVID, systemic racism, and inequality. So she's claiming that Trump is denying COVID and climate change. I mean, who's denying that those things exist? I've never seen that happen. I've never seen Trump do that. Like, I'm not seeing any sources here. There's no links below this video. There's no proof that Trump is saying COVID doesn't exist. Like, no one has said that. Climate change is another thing. I mean, people have discussed these issues. Like, people have said, hey, is it really that bad? How many people are actually affected? Like, is this climate change really something we could control? Like, yeah, people have asked questions. We've all talked about it and discussed it. But to leap to the next point of denial, like, oh, saying it's a hoax, like, that's just total bogus. They're just trying to exaggerate people's interest in finding nuance in these situations. So they say, for example, Trump says that schools should come back into session. And that's where a Democrat like this, a dishonest person like Billie Eilish, would go around and say, hey, he doesn't think COVID's real. He's a conspiracy theorist. He says it's fake. It's like, no, he said something totally different. You're making crap up again. And back to the end of this comment, systemic racism and inequality. I mean, these are just terrible liberal buzzwords. What's systemic racism even mean? Like, from the system, from the stem? I don't understand where this racism is bubbling from. I mean, I get that there's a lot of racist people in the Democratic Party. Like, I understand they don't like white people and they prefer these other races like minorities and blacks and browns and whichever. Like, I understand that they have a lot of racism, but that doesn't mean we're all racist. Like, just because you're racist doesn't mean we all are.
And that starts by voting for someone who understands how much is at stake. Someone who's building a team that shares our values. It starts with voting against Donald Trump and for Joe Biden. Silence is not an option, and we cannot sit this one out. We all have to vote like our lives and the world depend on it, because they do.
Okay, that's some pretty good fear mongering right there. I mean, your life depends on it. Like, you really think people are going to die if Trump wins again? I mean, that's the implication. I mean, that's the sort of like highfalutin, over the top kind of, oh, this is life or death. Like, oh my God, the president's so important. And it is. I mean, the president is important, especially in this country. We have a very big, powerful nation that influences most of the world. So it is an important thing. But I mean, it's also just, it's not going to kill you. If you don't go and vote, if you get sick that day, you're going to be fine. If Trump or your candidate doesn't win, you're going to be fine. I mean, I don't want Biden to win. I think he'll ruin this country a lot, but I'm not going to like over fearmonger it and say, oh, we're all going to die if Biden wins. It's like, come on, dude, take a breath, relax with the whole freaking race baiting and the hustling and the doom and gloom.
The only way to be certain of the future is to make it ourselves. Please register. Please vote.
So low energy. Like, so I don't know why she's even doing this. I don't know why they posted this. Like, it's got a very bad vibe to it. Like, she doesn't want to be there. She's getting forced to do it. It seems like it's a chore for her. And it's just not where you want to be. It's not the good kind of endorsement they think. It's showing the desperation on the left and how bad this convention is going for them. And it's also showing how out of touch they are, like how terrible they are at handling these kinds of things, how bad they are at putting on events and, you know, just kind of talking to the public and giving the people interest in what they want, like giving them hope. You know, they're not hopeful. This is doom and gloom party. This is totally the opposite of the Obama campaigns, by the way. Like, Obama won because he gave people hope and he had this motto of change, and, you know, he had more positive things in his repertoire. But with Joe Biden and this current Democratic platform, I just don't see it. I see negative, attack Trump, you know, go negative right away. And it's just a bad place to be. And I understand why Billie Eilish was so bored and so not really wanting to be there. It's just a very bad situation, and I wouldn't want to do it either. So with that said, that about wraps things up. I hope you guys enjoyed today's video. Make sure you comment your thoughts on everything below. Also hit the like button to get things shared. Subscribe if you're new, and hit that bell for notifications. We also have a second channel called NoBS News if you want some more extra content, including more videos and also some live streams. So until next time, have a great day. And last thing I'll mention is shout out to my buddy Marcus. He's a big fan of the show. He's been watching for a good long while, and he has his own YouTube page. So if you guys want to check it out, he does some really cool videos about trains and about transportation. So if you want to check that out, link below. Until next time, have a good one.